south side, so the bottom part of the side, you'll see the fence that separates the parking lot and the church from the neighbors to the south. That fence is the boundary line. And then if you go to the left-hand corner where you see the end of the parking lot, and then there's a few trees in the left corner there, those trees actually are on the church's property. And it goes almost from, see that left corner right here, okay? It goes up, the church property goes up to the end of the parking lot and then directly across to the street. It does not include the driveway. The driveway is city property, but it includes everything that is on the south side of the driveway. So, and then of course Village Pwky to the front. So that's the property that the church owns. The Presbyterian Church in Canada owns that. So a warm welcome to all of you. Kathy and I are going to be hosting this together, so I'll turn things over to Kathy for a moment.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Wu, and it's a privilege to be here today to co-host with Marty today's meeting. We're all local residents. This meeting is on the request of the local residents. Actually, I will use the word urged by the local residents, and I'm really appreciative of Marty accommodating this. Sorry, can you come closer? Is this better? Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Marty, for answering to our request and our urge to have this information night. The purpose of tonight's meeting is we want to seek some information. There has been a lot of words out there on the street in this community, and again, our concern. And we get different information from different sources, and that is not healthy for this community. We do not want to live in a lot of concerns. We want things, information in the open. So at the request of the local community, Marty, the minister of the Unionville Presbyterian Church, is very pleased to answer most of our questions. So we invite the residents to come here. Before we get started, can I remind people that we need to keep the fire exit clear, and please do not block all those exit signs. There's actually 5 in here. Please do not block them, and take up the seats as much as possible. We have some very distinguished guests today, and we have some chairs up here for them. May I invite them to come? I know our MP, Member of Parliament Bob Soroya, is on his way, and I also have the privilege to invite Honorable Billy Pong, our Member of Provincial Parliament, our elected City Councillor Mr. Reid McAlpine is here too. And did I hear Mr. Don Hamilton this morning?
Don said that he might be here. Is Don here yet?
Is he here?
Don may be here later.
Okay, we will save this for him. Is that everyone? Oh yeah, we have Regional Councillor Mr. Jack. He's here as well. Thank you, Jack. And today we have a full house. Yeah, I know. It's right now.
You can never hide.
I urge people to try to use up all the seats. It's likely, it's definitely a full house today, and we also have a full agenda. So today's agenda, if I may roughly introduce, is we would invite Marty to give an introduction of this, I think you're very cautious calling it a project, so you would say it's an idea. Where did the idea come from? What stirred up the local residents thinking and talking and questioning? So he will give a presentation on that. And then after that, we have a representative, Mr. James Linford, here. He will also present collective questions from the neighborhood. And then we will invite our politicians to give, sorry, I didn't introduce you. We would also invite our politicians to give your opinion if you have any. And then we turn the floor to the audience. You guys are the role today. You guys are here to ask questions. You're asked to meet with the church to ask questions, and this is your answer. I would encourage people to listen, pay close attention to what is presented, and then ask your questions when it's time.
So again, thank you for coming today, and appreciate the amount of time and energy that you have taken try to ask questions of the church. I have to say to you, first and foremost, is that we are in the visioning stage. We have talked about the decision to go ahead with a feasibility study. A feasibility study, as we'll talk about a little bit later on, does not mean that we have made any decisions to build. So please recognize that, and also recognize that this whole process, which I'm told takes anywhere from 9 to 12 months, will have a variety of opportunities for the community to engage. But my job right now is to talk to you a little bit about the church and why the church would even think about doing a feasibility study on seniors' housing that may be more affordable than other housing that's in this area. So UPC, Unionville Presbyterian Church, we like to think of ourselves as a community church. We're a church that really is challenged and affirmed and really supported by the concept of the Great Commandment. And that is, within Christian circles, the Great Commandment, Jesus was asked the question, what is the greatest commandment? And he said, the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. There are two great commandments or commissions within the New Testament teachings around Jesus. One is the Great Commandment that I just talked to you about. The other one is the Great Commission. And those of you who are Christians may recognize it as well. And that is to go into all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This church is much more interested, and our focus is on the Great Commandment, not the Great Commission. That may sound surprising to some of you, but hopefully you'll understand a little bit more. Why? We're concerned about what it means to be a person of faith here and now. What it means to be experiencing love, care, compassion here and now. What it means to care for your neighbor here and now. And we're content to allow God to let go and to be in charge of what happens in the hereafter, whatever that hereafter may be. So our purpose for existence, our raison d'etre, so to speak, our reason for existence is to follow the Great Commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. So as soon as we start talking about neighbors, that means that we're talking about people in our immediate community. So a few years ago, we underwent a kind of assessment of the needs within the community, and also a capacity, that is the gifts, the abilities, the resources of the congregation, to try to imagine what resources the congregation had that might be able to meet the needs that are in the community. And those of you who have done any kind of assessment of needs within Markham and the larger area of Markham throughout your region, actually throughout the province of Ontario, will very soon find out that there are some very real needs that seniors have within this community, beginning here in Unionville and throughout. So our focus was to try to create a place where seniors' needs could be met, where the issues of loneliness and isolation could be addressed. We were inspired by comments like loneliness and isolation among seniors is as harmful to their health as smoking one package of cigarettes every day. We recognized that real need. That's not something that we made up, that's what the research was telling us. So we began to create a community here where people could feel a sense of love. The purpose was not to turn them into little Presbyterians or older Presbyterians. The purpose was not to turn them into little Christians or even older Christians. The purpose simply was to love them, to care for them, to try to meet their very basic needs as best we could. And so together with a variety of different social partners and social agencies, we did just that. We created relationships with social agencies that enabled us to reach out into the community with some skill and some expertise to meet those needs. As we were doing that, we decided that it was important for us to have a certain value statement. And so we began to brainstorm, and I think we started off with about 36 different values. And as a congregation and as leaders within the congregation, we chose 4 values. The first one is service. The second one is inclusion, because we strongly believe here that God loves all people, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of whether they're gay, straight, regardless of whether they are part of the LGBT community or consider themselves part of the straight community. We believe that God loves all people, regardless of whether they're young or old. So service, inclusion, love, and kindness. Those values have really tried to frame what we do in the community. We affectionately refer to that as SILK, S-I-L-K. So we try to be, in our relationships with people, to follow that sense of SILK. So again, as we were doing our assessment of the community, seniors became very much a part of the needs of the community that we felt that we could address. And so we saw seniors' needs both within the quote-unquote original community, that is to say those people who have been in part of Unionville for 30, 40, 50 years, perhaps longer than any of you in this room, but also a number of the new immigrants who are part of this community. Actually, in this part of Unionville, I think it's safe to say, statistics tell us that about 65% of the people are from Asian descent. Many of the newcomers, as we're beginning to understand, are Mandarin speaking from mainland China. So in terms of our legendary mission, our focus of what we wanted to do to try to love people, to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, we adopted a legendary mission that focused around seniors and that also focused around Chinese immigrants and Chinese newcomers. And interestingly, the Chinese immigrants and newcomers that we've attracted have been almost exclusively seniors themselves. And so we have a variety of programs for seniors and also for the Chinese community. We have an Enjoy group, which is about 12 or 15 people who gather together around the lunch once a week to talk about issues around loneliness, isolation, the issues that affect them as seniors. We have a care network within the congregation to reach out and support each other. We have support from CHATS, which is the Community Health Community Chats. CHATS. They do an awful lot of work trying to help seniors stay in homes longer. And so they offer a support group once a month in this facility as well. We have Parkinson's. We have a Parkinson's support group that meets here. We have Evergreen Hospice that offers programs here. We have ESL programs here. We have the Health and Happiness, Mandarin Health and Happiness Club of Unionville meets here. We have supports from the Chinese Family Services of Ontario. Every Thursday, someone comes here to offer support, counseling support. And we also have a settlement worker from Chinese Family Services as well. So that's the foundation that we've been working on over the last couple of years in terms of trying to create an opportunity for seniors to find a place of belonging, a place that they can feel loved, and a place that they can feel cared. The next reality with respect to that is that if we truly want to meet the needs of seniors, one of the greatest issues confronting seniors is housing, and specifically rental housing. So we were encouraged by some community members to look into the possibility of a senior's residence here on this property. And so we've been looking at that and talking about that off and on. It's been on the back burner for a while, comes to the front burner, goes back to the back burner, all of those kinds of things. And right now it's back on the front burner. And it really comes out of the call of the Great Commandment, the creation of a community serving seniors and the Asian community. So there is a vision to expand that to include housing. There is, as I say, a recognition by all levels of government that housing for seniors is a priority. We have, actually, the Presbyterian Church in Canada has this land here at 600 Village Parkway. We feel perhaps called to use that land to serve the community, again, with that inclusion, love, and kindness. Seniors need that kind of attention right now, and we think that we can play a role.
Excuse me, can you louder, please? There's somebody who cannot hear you.
Well, then I ask them to come in. Well, you've got lots of room over here, sir, and you've got lots of room over here.
Everyone, come in.
Please don't be shy, just come on in. So what we're inviting you to do is to join with us in doing what we believe is our part, doing a good thing for the community. So what's happened so far? So far we've had an informal decision by the leadership of this church to undertake a feasibility study that may include a feasibility study on senior housing that may include units for adults with physical and developmental disabilities. We've decided to partner with the Markham Interchurch Affordable Housing with respect to that. What happens over the next 6 months? UPC and LICA will be applying for funding, seed funding through CMHC. If we get that funding, we will be engaging a consulting firm. We'll be listening to the community, a variety of voices within the community. We will try to set some priorities with respect to the feasibility study and to clarify the actual need. And we'll continue initial conversations that we have with the Presbyterian Church in Canada. Between 6 months from now and a year from now, we will actually conduct the feasibility study, which will first of all be a physical feasibility. Is it actually possible to do something here? A financial feasibility. What kind of building? How many units would make it financially viable? It would be the setting up of a not-for-profit organization to do that. To do a study on the owner's flexibility, that is the Presbyterian Church in Canada, and what restrictions might they have. And then also a land planning feasibility, which means consultation with the immediate organizations that surround Carleton Park, including Markham Parks and Rec, Unionville Tennis Club, the Soccer Association, the Baseball Association, and so on. Once all of that has been completed, then we will approach, if we get some green lights and ideas that this is actually possible, then we may approach and solidify potential partners for the raising of necessary funds. But throughout all of this process, it's absolutely crucial, and it is our aim to engage the local population in discussions. So a series, perhaps, of evenings like this, to listen carefully to the immediate concerns with respect to the immediate neighbors. And can I ask, just by a show of hands, how many people are within, say, 200 meters of this building? Okay. Wow. We're glad that you're here, and we're here to listen to your concerns. We will continue to present the studies of the feasibility study and gain further community insight based on facts that present themselves as we're moving along. And we also agreed to post regular information about the progress on the UPC website and also through the monthly newsletter from Councillor Reid McAlpine. So that's the process, why we're here tonight, and I'm happy in a little bit of time to go through any questions with respect to that.
I have a question. Sorry, back here.
Can we state the question?
Oh, you just said.
Can we state the question? We will have a question and answer period. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have a full agenda, so we're trying to move through the agenda, and then we'll leave ample time for everyone to ask objection to hearing this idea of this? Okay. Well, why don't I do this?
You're okay, why don't you step up there?
We will have question and answer period. We have 2 mics down there. We will pass them through. If you have a question, put up your hand. I'll make sure that your question gets asked. If you prefer to write your question and somehow pass it on to me, that would be fine too. And I forgot to mention, turn off the cell phone, but I think everybody probably has. Thank you.
Hello? Good evening, everyone. My name is James Lee. Same as you guys, I'm a local resident. I've lived in this community for more than 12 years, and I love this community very much. I would like to do anything to protect it, to make sure it's continue like what we're enjoying right now. So this is why about last month, well, it should be 2 months in May, I heard the news saying the UPC may have a plan to convert their parking lot into affordable housing. So we get concerned about that one. So we first one we tried to approach with Marty, but we were told the church is not made a decision yet, and we need to wait until they make the decision and they will inform us. And also we approached to the reporter from the Markham Economic Sun, who first covered this story and make the word about the wordings about this matter. However, that reporter made a date, and we have all volunteers gathered in the parking lot to try to tell our story. However, the reporter canceled the appointment at last minute, saying he was sick. And he said he would send a photographer here to take the picture, but he didn't show up. So that's why we decided we just take a picture of ourselves. So that's how we have this picture. Because we want to know what is going on. We want to be involved in the community development. So I think this is the purpose why so many people are gathering here tonight. We want to find out whether it's the proper location in UPC parking lot to convert some sort of residential buildings. Too much? Alright. So this is how all the concerns start. We first got aware about this matter on May 23rd. On this building, we hosted a symposium for housing for senior, and we first know about this news from the newspaper, which I take a picture of right there. So the first concern becoming is the messaging is keep changing. The first time we learned from the newspaper is saying the house is going to be affordable housing for seniors. However, if you see on the picture on the right side, the invitation sent out for that meeting, the agenda changing slightly from senior affordable housing to senior affordable housing and person with disabilities. And so on that day, 23rd May, I come here in person and I spent about 3 hours listening to the whole session. And I'm pretty surprised for me to find out most of the guests are talking about the person with mental disabilities. So the first concern is I don't understand how the things changing from the senior affordable housing slowly to the mental disabilities. I understand that during the planning people may change their mind. However, those things are happening in just within a few days. So the first question would be why the message is changing and what's the your purpose for this developing? Is that going to be affordable housing for senior only, for mental disabilities, or for the mix? We don't know. So that's why we need to answer. The next one is concern is about our public green space. So this picture is our beloved community. This community was established by 1794. I did research on Google and I found out that's a longer history than even in Canada. So we're one of the oldest community in the country, and it's a very, very mature, developed community. And in this community, you can see the size is only about 4 square kilometers, and about 5,000 families living here. And we have 4 schools here with about 2,000 students. And then you can see I circle all the schools in the red. And the only vacant, I would say only vacant land in this community from the picture you can see, easily see is Victoria Park and Hackett 7. That used to be a wetland. However, this one turned to the high-rise condo and the townhouse. So it's going to be high-density development. So when you leave the calculation here, we only have 3 parks in this community. The total size is just less than 10, well, it's roughly about 10% of the whole size of the community. But as comparison, in Toronto, the average public green space is 13%. We are already less than the average. So is that a good idea to introduce more population into this area where we're having this below average public space? So that's a question we want to be answered. The next one is concern is about UPC parking lot usage. Because on the May 23rd meeting, we understand one of the motivation for UPC to convert the parking lot to affordable housing or whatever the building would be is based on one assumption. Is I outlined on the screenshot. Because they say the parking lot sometimes is not used, probably using only once a week, and most of the time it's unused. However, we have volunteers take a picture of the UPC parking lot usage in reality. So this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I would say, yeah, probably that's true for some other church, but it's not here. So the UPC church parking lot is heavily used by the local community. So this is the answer. This is the question we need to be answered. So the assumption is wrong. So the conclusion might not be right either. So the next concern would be the car-dependent community. Because if we're going to build affordable housing for the seniors or the mental disability, whatever, so they might heavily depending on public transit, or lots of them will depend on public transit. However, when we do the research, we found our community, well, too bad, we're not a walking-friendly community. Our walking score is very low, it's only 30, which means you probably need to drive everywhere for whatever you need to do. So I really cannot imagine for a senior that is stuck on the street working 30 minutes to the no-frill just for grocery shopping in the winter storm. So whether this is the proper location. Traffic. That's the topic. So let me ask a question. How many are you living on the Village Parkway? And how many are you getting crowded and just backing out from your parking lot in the morning? Right? So, yeah. So this is the picture we take. That's reality of happening on the Village Parkway. We experience that twice a day. The traffic is packed. And we have a volunteer to drive it. Yes?
Traffic on Village Parkway, we found in Colorado. I was attending those meetings several years
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Let me finish my presentation. We'll save that for question.
This is big, and this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes. This, by the time when the highway is by the end of the winter part, when that one built, it's going to be hundreds of families moving in. And I'm pretty sure this traffic will getting worse. That's nowhere else.
That's what people getting.
Next one. So we did a little research about whether there are any other senior house nearby. And I'm not a professional planner. I don't have all the detailed data, but I just Google it. And very easily for me, I found that there's 6 settlements in our area which are for senior and affordable housing. And I marked that one on the map. And you can see there's one common theme for all of those locations. They're all close to the shopping, to the clinic, to the public transit. So that is where the affordable housing or the senior house should be, because you need to consider about their life quality. As I mentioned before, how could you imagine a senior guy just working 30 minutes in the winter storm to the grocery shopping? And we do have a public transit. That's Route 40. I'm not quite sure how many are you having taken that one. I did. That's 1 hour, 1 bus only. And my mom even used to live with us, but she escaped because she said it's so inconvenient for her. She needed to walk everywhere, and she cannot afford doing that. Next one is a real case we can learn from. So in that May 23rd meeting, we also learned the so-called co-housing concept. So basically, the senior and the people with disability probably living in the same building. This co-housing concept is not new. It's not just an event. Actually, it's happening in Toronto. So this is a real case I took it from the TCHC, Toronto Community Housing Committee, if I take the name right. That's the largest social housing management company in Canada, which is running hundreds of buildings in Toronto. And they do have a few buildings which used to be dedicated for the senior housing. However, after the senior passed away, they get a vacant, and they do have a huge demand for the low-income family. So what they did, they just mixed the low-income family into the same building where the senior lives. They saw this co-housing concept. So the similar concept is you put the senior with mental disability in the same house, kind of the same concept. And what happened? You can see the news. The senior, they're so vulnerable. They cannot protect themselves. They get bullied. They get bullied by the teenager who leave the building. So if we put the senior with mental disability together in the same building, whether is that going to the same thing would happen? I don't know. I just show you the concern, because who is going to protect those seniors' benefit?
You're talking about different neighborhoods entirely and much larger populations of people. That is not a relevant example at all. I just want to state that.
Yes, but the concept is the same. You want to mix the senior with somebody else, right? Some other type of family. So I don't think that's a good idea. Last one. As our picture said, our voice matters. We want to participate in any major developing project like this, which is going to change the landscape of the whole community. So the good neighbors, we're not just being informed by your neighbors. We're working together, we're helping each other. So I'm not satisfied just saying, you will be told, you will be informed. I know as Marty said, the church has not made a decision yet. They don't know what's going to be built in the future. It's going to be affordable housing or social housing. We don't know yet. So some people saying, what you guys against for? It's nothing yet. Yes, I know there's nothing. Basically, we're not against anything. We're just providing our input so you can make a better decision by knowing which is liked by the community, which is not liked by the community. Just give you one example. I say you try to paint your garage door. I know you're going to paint a color which I hate so much. Not just I hate it. I know everybody on the street hate it. should I tell you before you start painting it? Or I should wait until you're done and then say, I don't like that color. Which one you will appreciate better, right? So that's what we do right now. And also we know the feasibility study is going to be started. However, as said, neighbors are helping each other. So if they consult our local residents, probably lots of questions on the feasibility study could be answered. For example, let's say, do we need that study to tell us the traffic on the parkway is a mess? We don't need to, because we live here. We experience it every day. We knew it. Do we need that feasibility study to tell us, saying, our community is heavily depending on the car? No, we knew it already, because I drive everywhere. I drive for grocery shopping, visit friends, even drive my kids for piano class. I need to drive. So, I said, by the end of the day, even you have a feasibility study, telling you everything in one conclusion, is that really countable? I give you one example. You can see there I have a picture right here. That's what happened exactly 50 years ago. In that time, the provincial government, they want to link the Kennedy through the Unionville Main Street. And they did a physical study at that time as well. And they thought that's a good idea. However, a group of young people, they don't think so. That's why they found the Unionville Festival. That's how the festival coming from. And after 50 years, we all celebrate the beautiful and peaceful of the Unionville Main Street. What we enjoy, we appreciate for what those young people did. So you can see, feasibility study, if they are not consulting the local resident, sometimes they can give you a totally wrong conclusion. Since we receive lots of feedback from the community, that's why we decided to create a new NPO just for this matter, to focus on the local community developing. And also we're going to hire a city planning lawyer. All those efforts, just try to work together as good neighbors to find out a better solution which will benefit for everyone living in this community. So this is a quick recap. So you probably received the letters before, and I'm telling you, once the news spread out saying there's going to be new development on UPC parking lot, we received lots of feedback from the community, and we received more than 1,200 signatures in just 10 days. And that number is still coming up. Last year we had a city election, and Mr. Reed, sorry, I can't lie, sorry, he got elected, and I get a quote from his campaign sentence, which I think is really well written and really address the scenario we're facing on right now. So in the campaign statement, he mentioned there's lots of challenges in the city, and those challenges including traffic congestion, which we know on the Village Pwky, that's a good example, made worse by inconsistent density planning. What should we do? We need to plan better, and also what we need else we do. Greater effort to protect mature community is also required. So we do want to see what's the efforts going to take to protect the mature community like us. Today we're going to have all three levels of officials from the federal, provincial, and the city level join us. The Bob will come late because he has another meeting, so he will join us later. So yeah, so during the question time, we hope the elected officials can hear us, speak for us, support us to make this community a better place. That's all I want to say.
I think I collected from James speech a very positive message. Collectively, as residents of this community, we're not just whining and complaining. Yes, we have our concerns, but we are also willing to raise our voice, raise our concerns, and work together. If there is a proposal, if there's a redevelopment in place, we want to be part of this process, right? We want to sit here asking questions and not commenting. Just one more step before I turn the floor to questions and answers. I want to give the politician a chance to I promise, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Bill, you want to?
And they don't like to
I'll give you 1 minute.
doesn't serve them. Just waste time.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for showing up tonight. This is obviously an important issue for the community, and so it's good that we can get together and listen to all sides of the issue. And I'm glad actually that some community organizations and Our Voice Matters in particular have been formed, because I think that makes the conversation easier when there's actually an organized group to have a discussion with. So I think this is all a very positive situation. In terms of my position with respect to building affordable seniors housing on this site, one of the things that makes, or probably the most important thing that makes Canada a really great country is our inclusivity. And inclusivity includes a very generous immigration policy. It includes LGBTQ rights. It includes rights for seniors. It includes rights for people with disabilities. It includes rights for people who make more money and people who make less money. And healthy communities are complete communities. Complete communities include people from all parts of the spectrums that I just described. They include people who've been here for generations, people who are immigrants, people who are young, people who are old, people who are wealthy, people who are not so wealthy, all in the same community. That's a healthy community, and we're learning more and more about that. So I was quoted about good planning. Good planning is about complete communities. So from that perspective, and good planning means answering all the questions that were asked tonight. Those are all good questions, and they all need to be answered. And clearly, through the feasibility study, the church has promised to answer those questions. They don't have most of the answers yet tonight. Things like the impact on traffic, etc. So all of that's a good thing. So we're going to get the answers to the questions that you need. That said, I will be absolutely honest and frank. If the answers to those questions are positive and that they show us a green light, on average, I am very much in principle in support of affordable seniors housing on this segment.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment? Billy, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Billy McApee from Unionville. I started serving the community as a volunteer since I was a high schooler, and I served frontline like marginal youth, street kids, seniors, homeless people. So I have the passion to serve people, especially those who are in need. On the other hand, having said that, being an elected official, I also need to listen to the community. I always believe that community is a kind of chemistry that is how to say what is right and what is wrong, but an interaction. Sometimes this combination is good for each other, sometimes it may not. As you may have heard, decisions are made by those who show up. So now you show up. So you are engaged to participate, to express your concern, your idea. So tonight I'm not here to speak, I'm here to listen. And I believe all the elected officials are here to listen. So So,
Thank you, Lily. I keep getting messages that people want to ask questions, so I'll give it to you, but you have to promise 3 minutes, sir.
Less than 3 minutes from Deputy Mayor Don Hamilton. I'll just say that nothing that I'm aware of has been decided. Nothing is finalized. I've heard all sorts of ugly rumors that there's going to be a hospice, there's going to be affordable housing, there's going to be mentally disabled people living here. There's all kinds of rumors that have been going on ever since the election. And I just want you to know nothing has been decided. There's a process to be followed. There are rules to be followed. And at every step in that process, that you can be involved in that process. So I just want to reassure everybody that there's a process, and I will be following that process, and certainly will be working with the local council, Reed McAlpine, and the other members of council to make sure that you're kept informed. Thank you.
I've never stood in the pulpit before. And my great concern when I listened to the pastor that he was going to stop in his speech was now we're singing hymn number 354 because I haven't got a hymnal and I don't have it all memorized. But this is wonderful. I want to make sure that we understand what we're talking about here. I read the petition and there's a couple things in there that I don't agree with. It refers to a report that I co-authored. It came to the city of Markham in March, I believe, about age-friendly housing and making Markham an age-friendly community. About 2 years ago, I was anyways until recently, the chair of Housing York, and we met with Marty as to the potential of a small seniors housing back in the parking lots. The report proposed parking lots as locations for the services that we might need as a community for housing, seniors, and all sorts of other community groups, etc. Because parking lots are free. We own them, or the church owns them. However, there was never something that was going to be imposed. It needed to be talked about. The city owns about 100 acres, if not more, including all sorts of opportunities. So, seniors affordable is the only thing we've been talking about. Yet I noticed some of the things in the report that I saw related to young people in crime. Well, the seniors, we have a list at Housing York of over 6,000 seniors who need affordable housing, including, I would be willing to bet, someone who knows someone in this room, in this very room. Somebody is on that list, or someone they're friends. It was only for parking lots. I don't know where the reference to green space has come up.
Thank you.
Maybe it's possible that someone can explain how the report can be transferred into green space. It wasn't our objective. If parking is required, the suggestion I would give the report, so they could read the report, was that the first floor below ground and the first floor on the ground or so would be for parking. It would start on the second floor, so that there would be no loss of parking, any loss whatsoever. There are lots of seniors housing nearby, and I can name them. I mean, we all know them. They're down on Highway 7. They start at rentals of $4,000 to $5,000 a month. Housing York, we might be able to go at some at $850, $800, $1,000, etc. That's affordable housing for seniors. The other thing is, I certainly want to correct. I appreciate the references to Toronto community housing, but as chair of Housing York, we have no backlog in any kind of capital improvements. They're all in great shape, and I would challenge any single one, to tell me what kind of crime is coming out of the seniors' housing down at Housing York.
Thank you.
Nothing. The other thing that has to be corrected, most seniors don't work. They're not going to be in the rush hour issues that we have with traffic.
That's right.
They're not going to be going to work at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Jack.
I'm not a residence committee immediately. I think we should be setting one up with 12, 15, 9, something like that. Taking volunteers with the speakers, etc. And I'd be willing to be on the committee. Maybe as ex officio or whatever, because I think it's very important. But let's set up a committee tonight.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack. I think we need to make one message clear. I think I have to actually make two messages clear. Number one, I think the politicians afterwards do have a bigger vision than I do. My vision is on the isolated here at 600 Village Parkway. I'm sure that that's what we're here for. So I want to remind people that I am going to turn to the floor now for questions. There are 2 mics out there. Can I see where they are? Mike? 2 mics. I need you to have a mic. I need volunteers to hold 1 mic for this section, 1 mic for this section. So that we can have volunteers to...
So now we are taking questions.
Where's that mic on that side?
Where's the second mic?
Where's the second mic? There are 2 mics. There's supposed to be 2 mics.
We have 2 mics here, and then we are taking turns on. So please raise your hand. This lady here.
One at a time, please. One at a time.
Hello. I'm a local resident really close to this church. On Thanksgiving evening, I opened my front door and I saw a copy of an email taped to my mailbox from the church to the mayor's office concerning hospice, senior living, all this stuff. No mention of affordable housing for young people. Okay, no one cares about the young people that are going to be taking over this community one day. All I hear about is hospice, disability, seniors. Anyways, maybe later, my neighbor Kevin, you met him today? We came here by the church because we thought there was a meeting about this. It wasn't, it was to do with something else. The minister told us he knew nothing about this, okay? I had the email in my hand, okay? Because I was really upset on Thanksgiving evening when I saw this. So someone from the church sent it to there secretly, take the copy to all our mailboxes. So then, when this meeting happened here a couple of months ago, none of us were notified that there was going to be a meeting. It was in the local paper, which doesn't show up till 5, 6 o'clock. Kevin came over and said there was a meeting, so we came here. And it's like it really,
Thank you.
it
So your
really
question
upset.
is on communication? Your question is?
There was no communication, okay? All the politicians were here, nobody told us. Nobody.
Thank you for your concern with respect to that. The feasibility study, or the night in which we did
I was not finished.
housing symposium. Yeah. Go ahead.
You know, that night we were here, I felt like I was at work on a course. All week they kept bringing up the screen about everything across Canada, what's happening in Vancouver, Toronto. I don't really care what's happening there. I live up here, I've lived here for over 30 years. Okay, nobody has asked us to leave on, okay? It just seems like You can tell me anyone here that was notified about that meeting a couple months ago. You won't find anybody. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Thank you for your concern. The housing symposium that was held on May the 23rd had nothing to do with the possibility of senior housing here. The housing symposium was our church trying to encourage mosques, synagogues, temples, gurdwaras, and other churches to look at the possibility of using their lands for seniors housing. It is one of the things that spurred us towards making a decision with respect to a feasibility study. But that night, the church had not made any decision. That night was not designed as an opportunity for the church to make a decision. It was simply an impetus that helped us to, 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, to make a decision with respect to going ahead with the feasibility study. And again, I'd like to say no decisions have been made.
Why don't you apologize for not inviting other people?
Yeah.
Michael,
Sorry.
pick up the mic.
Sorry, I'd love to hear what was said. I just couldn't hear what was
So
said.
if there's anyone who doesn't speak English, I can help to translate. So there's a lot of people like, okay, is this? Sure.
I spoke to Reed McKelvin about this when he was canvassing for his position in municipal elections. You politicians are wonderful at creating additional density for the pocket.
I take offense to that. I'm not a...
No, excuse me. I've got a train of thought. I've got a train of thought. If you allow that density to be provided to the developer on a joint venture basis, where the town of Markham would secure some benefit from the additional density that you allow Rudy Brady and whatever, all the developers that get it gratis and get $20, $30, $40 million per project profits out of it. If you did a joint venture, created a pot in Markham, you would have oodles of money to allow seniors to be supplemented with rental. You'd have seniors living in buildings that are designed for rentals. You wouldn't have management issues that happen with these types of congregations trying to set up their own senior rental projects like they have in Scarborough. 3 of them have failed with the United Congregation in the last 10 years, just so you know. And you know what, they're in the business of saving souls, not saving money, and they realize it the hard way. We're trying to give you a heads up that it's not a viable proposition.
I'd like to ask Mike Clare to come forward to answer that. Mike Clare is part of Markham Interchurch Affordable Housing, and he's the person that would be able to answer those kinds of concerns.
Micah has built, over the last 25 years, over 350 units of affordable housing for seniors, for young people, and for families who need rent-earned income. We have housed over 5,000 families in our history. What I'd like to ask you is how many people know where our housing units are? Respect, please. You raised some concerns. I want to answer them. One of them that was raised was what is the issue of bringing seniors together, and is there violence for those seniors? We have 150 units of affordable senior housing. That means rent supplements to seniors. There have been no incidents of violent crime in that unit. Are you sure? Yes, I am.
How many seniors in this room?
I think the main questions that we are here today is this the best location for these high-density residents?
guys need to Google the definition of the phrases you are being said. Please, do your research. Do your research. This is not an identity.
One speaker at a time.
The woman.
One speaker at a time, please.
Okay, yes.
One speaker at a time, please.
Our buildings that we have built have been in communities like this. They have not decreased property values. They have provided affordable housing for seniors. Because you don't know where they are, I think that speaks to how they blend in with the community.
Excuse me. So, excuse me, if I know where they are, if I know where one of the housing units are, can you tell? No, sir.
One speaker at a time. One speaker, please. One speaker at a time, please.
There is one.
Where they are right now, because I know where they are. Is there apartments and condos?
Let him finish, then we can ask
Somebody make him
questions.
finish first.
Excuse me. Let him finish, then we can ask questions.
Is there, within 1 kilometer of the affordable housing that there is now, are there 2,000 units being put up to the south and proposed 4,500 people moving to the north where the golf course is? That's all I want to know, because I know where the housing units are, and I just want to know, were they put in before or after anything moving, or all the buildings going around?
We're putting in 32 new units as we speak. Where?
32.
We're building.
Sir, do you know how many
Building in
condos
Water
are
Street,
there?
20 Water Street, there are 150 units. It's right by the old Market Gold Station. We are building 32 new units on that parking lot. We've built affordable townhouses on Robinson Street. We've built 120 units of mixed affordable housing at 21 Place, which is Kennedy Road and 14th Avenue.
How many underground parking?
21 Place has underground parking.
Why is the mic going down?
You're not going to be viable. Unless you go 30 stories.
We are violent. We have a business model that we are.
You're on a water company.
I'll just say a few words. This morning, I heard on the TV news, Toronto is building 3,200 affordable housing units in downtown, east of Sherbourne. And I think that is also a mixed housing for seniors and others. So if there is a backlog of seniors, shortage of housing, shouldn't this be sufficient for them to fill the need? Why do we have to have a senior housing here? Isn't there a better use for this land area here? And if they build a senior's home here, who are the benefactors? The land
The seniors that we're talking about, let me just give you some statistics first of all about, do we understand what affordable housing is? Statistics Canada says of Markham, based on 2016 statistics, in the city of Markham, 70% of the population is one paycheck away from losing their house.
What does that got to do?
Those are the statistics from Stats Canada.
You want us
So, what becomes affordable housing? Can your children afford to live and have their first home in Markham? Can your grandparents or your parents, if they decide that don't have any property, can they afford to live here? So what becomes affordable housing? Who be able to afford on a pensioner's income to live in Markham.
We're not talking about Markham, we're talking about
and in this community, that is just as applicable.
It is not.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. I think that collectively the message is we want to talk about 600 Village Parkway. There's nobody here really is against affordable housing. There's nobody here is against seniors housing. We all have seniors at home. I have 2 80-year-olds at home, so totally everybody understands that concept. They have to live somewhere. We're not against that. The issue is this parking lot feasible? So I guess a lot of the question circles around this question. So, is there any question addressed to?
Okay, I love my neighbors. I am a senior and I belong to the Asian community. But I oppose to the housing project on 600 Village Parkway. I moved here in 1992. In the 90s, I attend to all the meetings about the traffic on Village Parkway. In the last 30 years, nothing improved. We have the traffic calmer for a few years. They are total waste of money. The townhouses at the end or the beginning of Village Parkway are disgrace to this neighborhood. They are so ugly. Totally disgrace to this beautiful neighborhood. And I don't know who in the city council approved it. And I cannot wait till those people moving in and start driving their cars.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess your question is addressing
I think there have been excuse me, there's been a number of questions from people who are very much opposed. I'm wondering if there are some questions or comments from people who might be in support. Can we, right behind you there, please? Right behind you there, please. Okay, we got a number
I live on this street. Do you live on the street? Okay, therefore you sit down. First of all, I'd like to stop. Use the mic. Go back and all comes back to the city.
Don't yell.
Well, okay, that's why we're in the room.
No, we need to hear you from the back.
When the city does its planning, what they need to do with the developers is they have greenland spaces for developers. They have to go through a process. But if they want development in this community, then you press that they have to provide that housing for seniors. You are? I want to see you at the golf course. Are you doing that? Are they going to provide seniors housing in that
I was the person, one of the main people fighting the developers and fighting council. I live in Normandale, so I'm not here. I've come here to tell you how deceitful the politicians are.
I was at the traffic meetings in probably 7 or 8 years ago when you did build the traffic calming that we have now taken out.
10 years.
Okay, 10. 7, whatever. Basically, that was the solution. I was upset about it because I moved into the neighborhood in 2005 and it was big. them. Now, what the city didn't do was not align Birchmont at 7 or Enterprise so you split traffic, because I can tell you, based on your traffic count from 2018, almost 10,000 cars meet at Highway 7 and Birchmont. Meet at Highway 7 and Birchmont. 10,000 cars. From that, they disperse, and they basically disperse next door. 8,963, 2018. 4,744 cars come on Village Parkway from Highway 7 north. Then they disperse on the adjacent streets, and they come up to Krigoff at 3964. 3,254 turn on to Krigoff, while 4th takes the collectors for that at Addington and so on and so forth. Past my house, there's 43,091 cars, 4264 as you get to Carlton, 5,024 at Carlton, and 5,239 at 16. This is the busiest street except for Kennedy and Warden. So you have a lot of people that come through the neighborhood to get up north. When that development starts, it's going to be crazy, and all these houses that are going up in here, and all the condominiums, they're all coming out, and that stupid little traffic circle ain't going to do nothing. Okay, so my opinion is, I live on the street, I'm concerned about traffic. Okay, and the crooked politicians who should have never aligned Birchmont with Village Parkway. But it went ahead, and when I was going to these meetings for traffic calming of Village Parkway, that was presented because at that time Birchmont wasn't up to Village Parkway. Okay? So basically that is my view. I understand what you're doing, but make the developer pay for his community for developing and put the seniors with the development that they're developing.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Now listen, I've come here, I live in Normandale like he does. And I live on Normandale, and I fought against the placing of the golf course of 7,000 people. They don't have one senior house on the entire development of 7,000. You will get from the politicians is how they care, how concerned they are about senior housing. 7,000 people have been put on that golf course, not one single place for seniors. Don't listen to them. You've got to get yourself a powerful, strong lawyer and fight them. They talk about, Jackie, and the other people are talking about things like, well, we're going to follow a process. But that process is designed to stop you from objecting. It's not. You have to fight against it. They lie, and they don't tell the truth.
I'd like to ask one more time. We've had lots of people speaking against. I would love to have someone ask a question or speak. Money. I'm asking you, please. I have lots of opportunity. People have had lots of opportunity to voice their objections.
I have someone I want to talk to you respectfully. Can we keep our emotions down? I'm just trying to understand, Marty.
some very specific questions as it relates to the church and the church governance.
Yes, thank you.
How many members do you have in this church?
How many members we have in this church?
Yeah.
We have an average attendance, where's Randy? Randy, what's our average attendance? About 40 people.
So, but for you to go to a feasibility, I would assume, I've been around church governance, I would assume that you've had the membership vote on it.
We have had the leaders vote on the feasibility study.
And how many members do you have in that leadership group?
How many is there? 11 of us, I think.
So essentially, we have 11 people who are so-called leaders in this church who are driving a decision here that this community is vehemently opposed to.
Actually,
I think we need to pause and think about it. I serve on the board of a church myself, and I serve on a church that keeps the main thing the main thing. Your mission is the great commandment. Go save souls. Building is not your forte. I used to provide financing. Churches came to me, and the churches that ran into problems were churches that embarked on a building project because they just didn't have the financial, intellectual capability to go on with something along those lines.
Yeah, I'd like to respond a little bit.
Yeah, you can. The other question I would have is, do your bylaws allow you to construct a facility of the nature that you're thinking of doing?
Sorry.
Do your bylaws, every church is a bylaw. Do you, either your governance document or your bylaws, basically spell out what the mandate of the church is, what the vision and the mission of the church is? Does your bylaws here authorize you to go ahead with the construction of a project of this type?
Anything that the church locally decides has to be approved by the national church, the Presbyterian Church in Canada. So I can't even answer that question. That's part of the feasibility study.
So at the end of the day, what you're basically saying is, as it relates to this community, the decision makers for whether or not this is a go from a Presbyterian Church perspective lies outside of the community. I think there's a problem there too.
So again, we've had lots of people speak against. Could I please have someone, please?
I'm not speaking for or against. I have questions specifically for you.
Okay.
You said that seniors in the majority of the area are coming to your church.
Oh, I didn't say that, no.
What are the majority of people that come to your church? The programs that I live on Village Parkway, just 4 houses down.
Yes.
So I see the sign, and you're always inviting...
We're always inviting seniors. Seniors is our focus, yes.
True. Now, what I'd like to know is, are you doing affordable housing, or are you doing senior housing?
We're doing seniors housing. That could be, and again, Mike would be able to answer those questions more effectively. But as I understand it, in terms of the projects that Mike gets involved in, it's the ability to pay.
So it's seniors housing, and you will have the option to make it something after it's been approved, other than seniors housing. I just want a verification on that.
No, that would not be a possibility.
So, I just want to, just because I'm a statistics person, when the first ethnic focusing nursing home for Asians opened in Vancouver, and oh, by the way, I was born in Asia. I'm not born here, so I am an immigrant. My children are first-generation Canadian. So I just want to read you something. In 1978, it was a hard sell for the community for the old model of filial piety. The attitudes towards immigrants have shifted in the past decades as second and third generation children adopt North American values. In this area right now, 63% are of the Asian community, myself included. Of that 63%, I don't know exact amount or the statistics, but in this area, I believe it's 41% are new immigrants in the last year. So their children are first generation. Are they let's say the second generation that has been here, so my children's friends, their parents are not putting their families in a nursing home. That's frowned upon. If my family did that to me, they wouldn't even know what happened to them. I can honestly say, unless I'm old school, and unfortunately a lot of the people up there know me because I'm very active in this, but do you really think when you open up a senior's residence, that may change, but a senior's residence, is it the community that is going to put their parents or their grandparents in your home? No, actually, there's not a 10-year waiting list. The waiting list, on average, in Ontario is 113 days. For seniors, maybe in the Asian community, because Markham has 2 Asian senior homes, the wait list may be longer. In Vancouver, the wait list is over 7 years. However, we have not come to that point yet because of the generations of families that come here are not second and third generations. What I'm asking you is, the seniors, if it's only senior housing, is it going to be for our community? Are you specifically going to let our community bring their parents here, or is it open to anybody?
I think that's an excellent question. And again, the expertise for that would be through Mike Clare. I don't have the expertise on that.
What we've done at Water Street is we have a wait list, and we accept people from the York region wait list. People are coming and have a look and see if they want to be part of the community. If they feel like they'd like to move in, they can move in. Also, in terms of the accommodation, we set up the accommodation so that approximately 80% of the residents are rent geared to income, and the other 20% are market rent individuals. So that we have a business plan that we don't need to go to the bank. All 3 of our projects have not gone bankrupt. We're extremely viable, and
So as you said though, it isn't for our community. You will let someone come in, look at the facilities, and if they would like to be part of our community. If this housing is going up, let it be for our community. Let it be for Unionville. Let it be for the grandmothers and grandfathers that fed my child when he went to Percy because I work shifts. Not someone who's coming in that lives at, lives at, let's say, Major Oaks in 48. Why can't it be our community?
I'm glad to hear you thinking about the possibility of a unit like that.
But I want to ask you something. Why is the church doing this? Do you need the money? I'm not asking this to stir up emotions. I truly want to know. Because I don't understand, after so many years, why you have to sell the property.
I'll be very honest. Could I please respond? Could I please respond? Thank you. I'll be very honest with you. 4 years ago, I was called to this church, and the call process within the Presbyterian Church in Canada is that when someone retires, like a lost minister, there is a process of trying to find a new minister. And the congregation at that time decided that through a whole bunch of process led by Randy over there against the wall, decided that they needed to try to find a minister who had the capacity or the gifts to try to engage the community in a variety of different things. I had those gifts and abilities. And so we began the whole process of trying to move towards what's called a legendary mission, recognizing the needs and the concerns as I outlined at the very beginning. I've been a little bit of a pit bull with respect to that because that's my job. My job is to try to help this congregation to be effective in its outreach into the community by loving and caring our neighbors. And we begin, as Christians, we begin that loving and caring with those who are most vulnerable. So why are we doing this? We're doing this because that's our call, to try to be most caring and most loving and most kind towards those who are most vulnerable in our community. We've recognized those as seniors. That's why we're doing this. Okay, good. Peter, could you please say some more? Anna, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Anna. I live in Unionville. I also have a property that is going up on Village Pwky, in which I'm moving to in a couple of months. I am also a member of the new immigrant community. I moved here in the year of 1997. I believe a lot of us came here, in a sense, came here to Toronto, Canada, because we want a better quality of life. And I'm just, I'm not trying to sway public opinion. I'm trying to be really careful to not stand on either one side, because I know just one wrong word can get me ambushed in this place. I do not want that to happen. So I want to appreciate all of you to be here, all of these concerns. And I want to appreciate all of you for being here in this really toasty weather, airing our concerns to. That speaks to how much we care about the cost. However, I want to put things into perspective, if you would allow me to finish. Okay, we want to be civilized Canadians. We want to be community residents of the Unionville community in the sense that we're contributing to it in a fair and just way. Before we moved into this community, we were new to this community as well. We didn't grow up with the grass and land from here, right? So, for us to be saying, I don't want new people coming, that's not exactly right. I know a lot of you aren't saying that, but I just want to put that extreme thought into perspective to, straighten up the pendulum. Also, on the other hand, I do agree that traffic, water, social support is not enough in this community. I can relate really well to it because I have a husband who every time he gets into the car on Highway 7, he swears his head off about every single light that he has to stop at. So that's not changing anything. I totally agree that that hasn't changed for the better, but I don't exactly equate that with what the church is doing for the community or with the community right now. And in terms of what the government or the PCs or whatever is doing, I work in social service. I actually lead a social service agency. So right now I cannot say I'm a fan of the Ontario government, only because Billy and I have dialogues, but because in the social service sector, the government is cutting funding, right? So I'm not speaking for them because I'm at the end of it. However, to put things into perspective, for all of these election campaigns at all three levels of the government in the past, 20 years that I've been here or more, have we not always heard the voices of residents saying there's not enough service here, there's not enough housing there, there's not enough this, there's not enough that, and the government right now doesn't have purse strings for you. And if someone else is taking the initiative, that's something to be appreciated. And if the government is helping, we have to look at it in a positive light. However, if the process is wrong, we don't necessarily need to endorse that, right? We want, if there is a project, if it is needed, if it is feasible, I don't want to see this to be the demise of Marty or the church either, right? We want new projects to benefit the community, not hurt it. So, what is a better way to find out whether it hurts or benefit the community than to conduct an objective study over this? The fact that we can gather here to speak our thoughts is because we have the right to do so. There are other places where we don't have this right to do so. So let's just make sure we uphold the democratic values of this society, right? There are others who can say there want to be, questions to be shortened. One sentence. You just say that to the other. So my question is, I have two questions actually. One for people on the floor, and one for people on stage, and one for people on the floor. Okay? My question to people on stage would be, now that you've heard all of us talk, are the ways or options you can put together to make this a more transparent, democratic, and well-communicated process? That's a question for you. The question for all of you here is, next time when there is an election or when there is a need in the community, and there is a long wait list somewhere, mind you, a long-term care home is not subsidized housing, nor is it senior housing. So if we're talking about the e-home, that stuff, that's long-term care home. Backed up by the Ministry of Health, there are doctors, nurses, and equipment there. They are building here is nowhere near that. It's mere houses like shelters, and they cannot do this alone. People there has to be service agencies partnering with them to be able to do that, okay? So my question to you guys is, next time there is a need or if there is a waiting list, what are you able to come up with to accommodate these needs? You all will grow up. You all have people who have needs. So when there is a need, what are you guys willing to do to accommodate that?
So my name is Peter Meisek. I'm actually representing officially the Unionville Residents Association. We have 500 members, all through Ward 3. That's Reed's Ward. And we've long been interested in affordable housing. We held a symposium a couple of years ago, and very recently we went to a workshop that the city did, that some of you were at. And what we learned is that the cost of land is the single biggest barrier to affordable housing. So when an institution like the church comes along and has an idea, and it's only an idea, to utilize their land for housing, we pay attention in a good way. And we're also aware of the senior tsunami. Some of the speakers talked about the long waiting list. You know it's probably going to get worse. I'm moving in that generation, and so is a lot of other people. So we definitely support, officially, as a residents association, feasibility study. We have no idea how it's going to turn out, but it's got to look at suitability of this location, engineering, the design of the building, costs, funding, who's the operator, is it going to be Housing York, who knows what it's going to be. We're not experts, but we have MICA, we have Housing York, and the city of Markham.
I'm sorry, we are here for questions.
Yeah, okay. So I have one question then for, you've heard a lot of the other stuff from Marty already. I have one suggestion, and I think I'd like Marty's opinion on. I think, hearing all the comments, you would be well advised to set up a stakeholder advisory committee with official representation from these different groups. Our Voice Matters, presumably URA, presumably the seniors committee that's out there. So is that something you're prepared to do, to set up a seniors advisory, a stakeholder advisory committee to advance this project?
I think that Jack Heath had already suggested that, and that sounded like a good idea to me.
Okay, so we remain open as URA to the results of the feasibility study.
So can I ask you a question? So do you live in this neighborhood?
I live on Normandale, like that other fellow spoke over there. I am not close to the district. I live on Normandale.
So I may have a little bit of sharper question. So when I'm immigrant, I've been born here. I immigrated here from Asia. So I was told the Canada is built based on democracy, right? That's one of our foundations to build that country. So the question would be, say, if your feasibility study give you opening for anything, I will question you ask. However, we can ensure we send a vote to every house in this community, and if the result turns out say we're against the feasibility conclusion, would you, the church, to go ahead to do the building?
What I heard the question as is if the majority of people in Unionville were opposed to it, would the church still go ahead with the feasibility study? I guess, is that what you said?
Yes, that's my question.
After the feasibility study is done, and you get
Correct.
the result.
Correct.
And the result is not favorable to the people, would you still go ahead?
To my understanding, feasibility study asks and tries to answer those questions. And I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I've been staring at it all night. Your voice does matter, but you're not the only voice that matters. Okay? There are other voices that matter as well.
I just give you one example in my presentation already. In the 15 years ago, when they tried to link up the candy with Unionville Main Street, the provincial government, they did a feasibility study as well. And that one saying it's a good idea to do so. However, what's the result? And you can ask all the local people, you prefer you have the Unionville Main Street line right now, or you prefer is the candy run through that town, right? So feasibility, is that always correct one? I have a quick question mark.
I think what we have tried to say, right from my opening remarks, is that we would try to make sure that the community's voices were heard. I've listened to all of your voices, all of us have listened to your voices, and I appreciate your honesty and I appreciate your passion. We're going to go into this feasibility study with your concerns in mind, absolutely. But again, your concerns are not the only concerns. They may well be the concerns that become the majority that make it impossible to do this. I'm not going to say in any way that that a feasibility study is going to go through regardless and that we're going to go ahead regardless. That's ridiculous. The feasibility study,
I just want to correct one thing.
feasibility study does exactly what you're suggesting. It tries to figure out whether or not it is viable, whether or not it actually works, whether it's a good fit with the community,
Yeah,
whether or not it's something that meets the needs of the community, and so on.
I just correct one thing. It's not just my voice. There's 1,200 signature sent out the signal, so it's our voice. Okay, it's not just my voice.
Correct. I think you also said that there were 5,000 families in this area, and 1,200 voices is not the whole community.
Just in 10 days.
Let's move on with some questions. Let's move on with some questions. The lady has been waiting. And we have a line of a lot of people waiting for more questions. Let's move this along. Thank you.
I'm Soraya Mangal, the founder of the Markham Community Wellness Group. We have over 300 local members, and we have been following the issue of affordable seniors housing and making Markham senior friendly quite closely. I'm literally going to give a stat, read a quote, and then ask a question. The stat is that, I don't think it's been mentioned that by 2031, we're going to have 120,000 seniors in Markham, with over nearly 12% of them low income. So the quote is by Emma Lazarus, and it was written for basically the concept of liberty, which reigns across North America. And what it says is, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe freely, the wretched refuse of your shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. So my question to everyone here is, how many of you can afford to pay $3,100 in rent per month?
Hi, can you hear me now? Okay. One of my quick questions is, Marty, why is the feasibility study conducted by the Presbyterian Church? Because 40% of individuals in Markham, I mean, we're talking Unionville specifically, are not Christian. And are we doing this initiative specifically because of God's, I guess, path? Sorry, I'm not religious, but are we doing this specifically because you feel like it's your calling, or is it because genuinely you believe that this is what the community, it would benefit the community?
Thank you for that question, and I really appreciate that.
I've been a part of this community for 4 years. I've been working with seniors primarily in those 4 years. I've listened to a lot of different stories about seniors, and it's a combination of both. I believe it is our call in terms of the Great Commandment to really love our neighbor, and again, when we try to do that, we try to reach out to those who are most vulnerable. And I honestly do believe that this is a good thing for the community. I honestly do believe that.
Sorry, I just wanted to state some statistics, if that's okay with you. I know everyone's talking about overpopulation, right? So we always understand, since 2006, Unionville has grown at a rate of 15%, 4 times than the Toronto average. It's now the 4th most populated city in the GTA. Do you think that, yes, because you do want to benefit seniors, for example, I want to help people, but I'm not going to welcome people into my house. I would try other means to try to help other people. Maybe there's another way. I also had 6 paramedic friends, because my background is health qualitative and quantitative studies. I had 6 paramedic friends trying to drive their ambulance from this location to the closest hospital, which is Markham Stouffville, and it took them 15 minutes, which is not acceptable, right? As well as people around here are students. You guys are a little older than usual, you know, the 40s in here, but you know, if you had children around this area that would consistently hear sirens when they have, let's say, a math test the next day, I think that's something that you wouldn't want for your children.
I actually live by Cornell, yes. And so I hear those all the time. So I understand your questions and your concerns. And I really do appreciate your candor and your honesty and your gentleness. I do appreciate that. I think these are very, very excellent questions. Again, I think we need to determine those kinds of things within the feasibility study. Does it make sense to have a residence that is 15 minutes from the hospital? What are the concerns with respect to the seniors housing that is happening in Unionville? How are they addressing those kinds of concerns? How are the other seniors, the residences that people have talked about, how are they addressing those concerns? And again, you know, getting back to why we would think about doing it here, over and over again, and Peter from the Unionville Ratepayers Association, or the Residents Association, referred to it, the number one issue that we hear in terms of affordable housing for seniors is the cost of land. And so our responsibility, and this is something that ties into our own sense of faith, our responsibility is to use the resources that we have to the best of our ability to serve the community. There's no sense in having land or a church or a house or whatever you have unless you're using that to make the community a better place and to meet the needs of the community, to meet the needs. And again, within the gospel, within the Christian faith, there is what's referred to as a preferential option for the poor, right? Yeah, so it just means that there's a bias towards poor people. There's a bias towards people who are in need. So really what we're saying is that people who are in need, their voices count. Now, that doesn't mean that your other voices don't count. We have heard, we have listened now for an hour and a half, and I really do appreciate your voice, your concern, your struggles. I lived in Unionville for the first 3 years that I was here in Markham. I lived in Fred Varley, and it was easier for me to walk to this church than it was to drive to this church. I understand what you're talking about with respect to that. Whether or not we can actually address those kinds of issues remains a question that can only be answered through a feasibility study. Well, I think actually, was it Jack? Jack, you want to say something with respect to that? Because you had talked about,
impact would the feasibility study be about? Then I would recommend you get on the committee because we'll go around and everybody will enter all their ideas of what the question should be.
We are all stakeholders, but we can't have 200 people on
You can't have 1,000 stakeholders, but you can have 15 or 20.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Nesta Morris, and I want to make. My name is Nesta Morris. I want to make a couple of suggestions. The second suggestion is a solution stroke question rolled into one. Now, my background for this is I have a master's degree in planning and transportation, and I've worked in it for decades. And I have spent the last year or two worrying myself half to death about what they're doing to York Downs, and basically we didn't lose because they're going to build it regardless. So, I want you to listen to this suggestion carefully. Go onto the internet tonight and have a look at savemarkham.ca, because in our naivety we thought we could save Markham from what's going on.
Right, you're here for the questions?
Just wait a minute. I'm going to get one bit. Go on to it. Read the bit about how the council operates. Educate yourselves. I'm very impressed with this turnout. Very impressed. But you'll get nowhere if you don't educate yourselves and if you don't prepare for the way you will be treated. Not just by the politicians, but also by the council staff, the planners. As I said, I am a planner. And they contradict every idea in planning that one's ever heard of. In other words, they just agree with what the council tells them to do. Right? Be warned. Go and read it. Read the bit on transportation, where this council does not care about your traffic problems. It does not care that it is adding well over 100,000 people to this already congested piece of land in the next few years. It does not care. Just remember that. Let it be your motto.
So we're here for the questions.
Right.
Can we move on to the questions?
Here's the question. It's a suggestion. If they care so much about affordable housing, believe me, I care too, although it is a problem of the politicians making for increasing density to these ridiculous numbers. All right? If they care, let them build this thing on the council car park, where they have a They have a huge car park. It is close to their legendary Viva bus service, which is all we've got and all we're going to get. We're not going to get anything better. And never fantasize about a subway coming this way. This province is bankrupt. Forget it. It's not in the plans to 2031, 2041 or so on. Read that stuff, suggest it goes on their car park, and suggest they practice. I'm sure this gentleman practices what he preaches, but these gentlemen don't. They tell us, walk or cycle, never mind the temperature, high or low, never mind your age, never mind your fragile hips. Walk or cycle. Well, let them show by example. May they walk and cycle to work.
Questions. And if you could address to someone, address to someone. Thank you very much.
I want to know what's the money from for the church build the affordable house. Who offered the money?
Who offered the money?
Yeah, you want to build affordable house, right?
Yeah, no one has offered any money yet.
So if you don't have money, how can you build it? Why you do a plan if you don't know you have money to do it? Where's the money come from?
That's part of the feasibility study, and sometimes as people of faith, we just step out in faith.
Because I checked the newspaper, Google, and said the provincial government offered the 174 million for the disability and the mental project. I think that's what you want, thinking about to build a building, please.
The National Housing Strategy of the federal government is offering funds for new construction through Canada Mortgage and Housing. So that would be one of the places that we would look for in terms of funding.
Okay, there is a friend live here, and he said the church, I don't want to name the person. She told the senior, you join the church, and then you will be the first priority to live in the affordable house. Is that right?
That is not right. That is not right, and I addressed that with the person who had said that. That person misspoke, and she apologized to the person that she had said that to.
I have a record of the voice, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to know.
And I also apologize to all of you for that, because that is not correct.
I want to know who is the first priority for the people can be choosing to live in the affordable house in this parking lot. I want to know how's the condition you're going to choose for who can live in.
I don't know, again.
Who is going to control the rule and make the rule?
Yeah, that would be part of the feasibility study to see whether or not there were people who were interested in it.
Okay, so the last question is, you said senior, you love senior. Do you think the senior and the mental people live together is good for them?
Actually, I'll ask Surjit to respond to that. He's just right behind you. He's someone who has a son who has
You tell me, I asked you, you answer the question. I'm not talking to him.
Okay, and
Do you think your mom with the people who have mental problems beside your mom, do you feel comfortable? Please. You like it, right? You see, there is because you know what, my experience. I come Canada 20 years ago. I work as a personal support worker in the hospital. It's not hospital, it's a building for senior. And then at that time, there is a man, very tall, maybe like him, the blue one, very big one, 90 something, almost 100, very healthy. Okay, and then he had mental problem. At that time, I go to take care of him during the night. And then at that time, it's my first time to see that. His mental problem come out, and two huge guys, very big, young, middle-aged, and pointed out there is a very, very strong woman. And I shake at that time. And then coming down, I see what happened. I can forget forever in my mind. Okay, and then I can't sleep the whole night. But tomorrow I have to still work for him because I have to, because I signed the contract. And then the other day I go, I see him, it's another person. Very quiet, soft, nice. I can't believe this person is two persons in front of me. There is 10 years, if one day happened this, will you take the responsibility of this case, please? If something happened 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, what can happen? Will you feel okay? Because for me, I'm feeling I stand here whole night. You only one thing, you have love or something, you care only one thing. You don't care 9 things. Okay, another thing is great. My family can vote for you because your promise make the community better. I email you 20 emails during the night. I can't sleep. You never ever have 1% care my feeling. You always say one thing. People, I tell you, I'm not talking to the people. I'm talking about the project. If you are a good people for the Macam area or even the community, your eye is not sharp. You have to be long eye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comment. Let's move forward. So have people asking questions. Excuse me.
So once again, don't say I look the senior 90%. Give me 10% of that.
I have been living in Village Pwky for 12 years. I've considered the church as a very good neighbor because you care about our seniors. You have activities and programs for them. So my question here is, you said our voice matters, but how come no one living near the church is aware of your development plan? And how can we trust you that our concern will be heard?
Again, I appreciate the honesty with respect to that, and I do appreciate the question. With respect to a feasibility study, the feasibility study takes a look very, very closely at the concerns of the community. That's part and parcel of what a feasibility study does. So I can say to you as much as I possibly can that your concerns are being heard tonight, and your concerns will continue to be heard. In terms of people from the church who live close, there are people from the church who do live here in the community and who are close to the church, and they're here tonight as well.
Sorry, this gentleman, do you live in this neighborhood? Do you live here in this neighborhood?
What's your address? No ID.
Do you live in Unionville?
If no ID, not living in the hill there, you can't speak.
Do you live in Markham? Yes. Do you live in Unionville?
They selected for you here. He cannot get the people identity on that and not live in this area.
I think we give this gentleman a chance to talk.
Excuse me. Hello. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. To your question, sir, I am one of those people who spoke on May 23rd. I could be your neighbor. I have a son with a developmental disability.
This is the information now for you that
Tell how many people are out there.
This is the meeting for you, neighborhood. You are not the people who live in your neighborhood.
Excuse me, please. Please.
Check the ID. Try license.
Please.
I need to just check in with people. It is 9 o'clock. We were hoping that things would wrap up by 9, but there seems to be a number of people who want to speak. So I'm just asking you, how much longer do you want to continue on? Do you want to continue on 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour? What would you like to do?
I think there's 6 people. Excuse me. We now have 7 people in line and no more 1, 2, 3, 5, or 6 people in line. Okay, we can only accommodate 6 more questions. One person per question, please. 6 people in line. No more questions after that. We have to wrap up this meeting. It's a working night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I moved in the neighborhood for 3 years, and I'm a working class with younger kids attending William Presbyterian School here. And I have my senior parents that was me in the neighborhood as well. So as a taxpayer, and I would ask to Martin and even the city councilor and the provincial and the federal level, how are we going to use the federal or the taxpayer money properly to develop the community? Second of all, what's the real benefit to the Unionville neighborhood by this development project? I need an answer. What's the benefit to me who live in the neighborhood?
I appreciate that question. Again, that's a very honest question, and I hear your concerns. So on a regular basis, we have anywhere between 100, depending on the week, to 200 seniors who come in through these doors for a variety of different purposes. And some are here for just support, some are here just for a sense of games, game nights, dancing, exercise, a variety of different things. What we hear from them is a need for seniors housing.
So what actually I heard from your side is a senior recreational facility. Because on the weekend, on the Friday, there's a lot of seniors living in the neighborhood and they gather here to have social life. And that's the facility which can be an option to us.
I've been living in Unionville for 13 years. I'm a Canadian citizen here. So I came up to the state because I just heard you say 1,200 signatures do not present any of the residents from Unionville. So I'm wondering, do you really see that? Do you really mean that? So you're teaching me a lesson. I'm thank you very much for teaching me a lesson because I believe most of the people here, they came to this country for democracy. So now they're teaching me voting does not matter. More than 30 of us working on connection the signatures for more than 1,200. So if that's not the voice of us, so what can be? Your voice? Do you believe in unity?
I lived in Unionville up until a year ago. When I first arrived here, as I said before, the church had asked me to try to make a stronger connection with the community and meet the needs of those in the community. We recognized almost immediately that I think the figures are between 63 and 65% of the people who live directly in this neighborhood are Chinese.
Let him talk, please.
My figures may be wrong. Could you correct me then? So, okay.
Why do you segment people by race? Why do you segment people
So the number of people who were coming to this church for a variety of different programs were overwhelmingly Asian. Overwhelmingly Asian. And so we saw the need to try to engage a Mandarin-speaking minister in order to try to meet some of those needs. And so what we did is we sold the manse and bought a manse in Cornell. And the amount that we saved by moving to Cornell, by moving the house to Cornell, we invested that so that we could then afford to hire a Chinese-speaking minister, a Mandarin-speaking minister. And so that's what we've done. We've tried to also offer programs for seniors here at no cost. And that the reason that we're able to do that is because we did sell the manse here, found a cheaper manse at the other end of town, and that enables us to offer programs on a regular basis at no cost to seniors, trying to make sure that we are inclusive in all that we're doing. So that's why I moved a year ago, so that we could, as a church, meet the greater needs of the community in which we're trying to serve as a church.
My name is Chen. I live in the community for about
last 7 years. I have a question for Councillor McPayne. Thank you for bringing us tonight, and thank you for teaching. In your website, you promised that you're going to protect the mature community as far as you can. You know, the Unionville community has been mature and settled down ever since 1794, and it's very well developed, and we love this community. So, how do you think this proposal is going to meet your objective of protecting a mature community like this one? Because many of us don't say it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, that's a great question. This is a mature community, but it's not a complete community. I think it's not. Okay, if you don't want to listen, I won't answer. You want to listen? A complete, can I speak, please? A complete community includes facilities and homes for all types of people. For younger people, for older people, for richer people, for poorer people, for people of all different races, for recent immigrants, for people who've been here for many generations, all living together, all in the same community. That's not true in this community right now.
So what's your scope of community? It's like, I know the people like the Lee, West of Warden, and the East of Kennedy, they care less than us for this 600 project. Right? So if you say the whole Canada is a community, I agree, we're just a fraction of it. So we care about here.
And thank you, and the church also cares for the people in this community. And we're trying to respond to the needs that have been articulated by people in this community. Again, when I came here 4 years ago, I was asked to try to make stronger connections with people literally who are in this community. And that's what I've been trying to do.
Another thing is that the Ward Street Councilor who just said this community is incomplete because we lack of a certain kind of variety of people living here. The thing is that with all those new buildings, I'm not in a position to tell the government to say who should live in those new buildings. Why cannot be a portion of those to be the housing for different variety of people? I know you are not in a position to answer. I'm not either, right? But the thing is that you cannot say, okay, only this parking lot can make this community complete.
priorities of any faith group, I would hope, would be to try to address the needs of those who are most vulnerable.
Let's answer straightforward. How much you can get? Where's the money from? We pay the tax, please.
Again, that would be
If you don't know, no answer, don't do your job. Let somebody else do it. Don't stay here.
I've lived in Unionville for 32 years, only about 2 or 3 kilometers away, so not right adjacent to the church. But there's one question that hasn't been asked at all tonight, and it's something I thought I heard, that there's essentially only about 40 members in the congregation. Is that right? 40 members?
There's an average, there's an average attendance of 40. The actual membership is quite a bit higher than that.
So because there's been no discussion about financials, but the question I was going to ask is, as part of the feasibility study, should there also be consideration that especially finances is an issue, because that's what you're, I think, in essence, trying to do by building seniors housing. But the question I'd be asking as part of your feasibility study is, did you ever consider selling this church and maybe joining up with some other Presbyterian churches?
Those are very good questions, and I thank you for those questions. There was some talk about working together with another Presbyterian church. That still is in the background. We haven't made any decisions with respect to that. With respect to our reason for trying to go ahead with this, it has nothing to do with finances. It has to do with trying to reach out to a community that is in need, as we tried to talk about before.
Thank you.
Sorry? Absolutely. 100%. Yep, absolutely. If you would like a financial, any of the financial statements from a church are public property. If you would like to have a copy of our finances, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, people. Thank you very much. This has been a... There is no money yet.
If the money does not come from the government or other community organizations, I think I hear what you're saying, but what I'm trying to say to you is if the money does not come from the government or other partners, again, that's part of the feasibility study. If the money does not come, there is no project. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, people. I know I'm putting Mr. Bob-Sorry on the spot here, but all the politicians had a chance to express their opinion or observation. I would appreciate it if you can share this.
Kathy, thank you so much. Sorry I came back late. I had my own AGM up the road here. Thank you, Marty. Doing this, it means a lot to the people. I was advised by the deputy mayor. None of my business here since I come on the federal side, but I'll give you my 2 cents. Good neighborhood is when we all work together, when we see eye to eye. I see a lot of angry people here. Before I walked in, I was stopped by somebody outside. I was sort of shy away to ask his name. So the person that lived across the road here, but didn't have any good things to say. But I'm hoping to listen to the people. Whatever the situation is, for me, people matter. So I'm hoping thank you so much. If there is anything I can do, anything I want, for this side, or anybody else's side, I'm here. I'm one of those people with the community building. I believe in the community buildings, and thank you so much. Thank you. Sheshe Raja.
Thank you so much, everybody. This has been a very the channel of communication is open. And there are immediate actions they have planned in mind through newsletter or through other channels. But as Marty said, he will be updating the neighborhood even if his idea of what is going on. And as a neighborhood, we can pay attention to what is going on through various sources. And the line is always open.
So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your passion and for your interest and your concern for the community. And please understand that we as a church do hear what you're having to say, and your voice is important, and your voice is a part of this whole process. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, one more thing. As I mentioned in my presentation, we are going to create an NPO. So if you would like to join the membership, please send an email to the unionvillecommunity@gmail.com, which is printed on the flyer. So please send an email if you want to join the NPO. Thank you.
我现在这边还有空白的签名书，如果有人还没签名，可以来这边签名。I have empty forms of the petition. Anyone have to sign or have to come up and sign?
Happy to vote. Happy voting. And that's my name. I'm very sorry, but everybody's not expressing opinion. I understand that. They don't know that